All righty. President Trump's got some new ideas for communist China, but they may not like him so much. Joining us now to talk about it is the great Steve Hilton, host of The Next Revolution on Fox News. Steve, welcome back on
Great
set.
to see you. Always a pleasure.
So, a couple things. I would say there are new wrinkles with President Trump and China. One of the wrinkles is he wants to end their most favored nation. So they get these cheap tariffs because they get most favored nation and they're part of the World Trade Organization. Mr. Trump continues to argue, I think correctly in the main, that that has done great damage to America's working class, industrial working class, and blue-collar workers. So he'll say, I'm going to go after them, we're going to jack up their tariffs, and if we have to leave the World Trade Organization, we will. What you think?
I think he's right. And there's a word that he always used, you remember, when he was talking about China and trade especially, it was reciprocity.
Yes.
We would treat them the way they treat us. They're incredibly protectionist on all sorts of fronts. If you just look at technology, there's this big argument, oh, can we possibly ban TikTok? They don't let US tech companies and social media platforms operate in China. And they've had it their way for so long, and it's done so much damage, not just the jobs and the wages and all that you describe accurately, it's also the problems you get with your supply chain being so dependent on them. All these people going on about how they want, batteries and the new green future for cars and whatever. It's all dependent on China. So we have to get these critical things back here so that we can be confident of the security of our economic security as well as the national security.
So two things on that. One is, I'm not a China expert. I just read stuff.
You're an everything expert, Gary Kudlow.
The Chinese Communist Party is increasingly taking over all of the Chinese government now, making no bones about it. I'm just reading that, which I find quite interesting. And secondly, the idea of completely separating the two economies, which is ultimately what Mr. Trump wants, as do a number of other Republicans. Even some Democrats want to decouple.
Yes.
The word. Okay. There was a paper written by a Chinese think tank that said that would hurt China much more than it would hurt the U.S. And then that paper suddenly disappeared from the internet. So it doesn't exist anymore. It evaporated. But it was out there. People were cognizant of it. Even though now it's gone. So decoupling hurts them more than us. You buy it?
I do buy it because then what you've got is the Chinese economy dependent on a whole set of much lower tier economies for its exports and wealth and prosperity. They've grown their economy on the back of the openness of our economy, the world's biggest. And so if they're going to end up just dealing with Iran or Russia or what have you, that's not going to be so good for them. The other thing that's so interesting about what you say is Xi Jinping, since he took over, he's just moved more and more in this centralized totalitarian direction, even though it hurts the Chinese economy. He's going after their tech companies. He's really asserting control over their industries. And it doesn't matter to him that it's damaging the economy because it's all about political power and control. In the end, as it always is with these communist leaders.
So this is kind of like the end of the Deng Xiaoping market reform period. Xi is just ending this altogether. So Trump is right, and we may as well fight. I mean, we're going to have to fight fire with fire.
Totally right.
Sooner the better.
Yeah.
So let's see. I mean, so how come with balloons and lab leaks and Taiwan and helping Russia and Ukraine, why doesn't Biden ever do anything about this? He talks it up a little tiny bit.
He does.
Then he goes and meets with them and nothing happens. And then Blinken, the Secretary of State, meets them and nothing happens.
And also the other thing that's really damaging is that even as they're giving it a bit of the tough rhetoric, at the same time, they're going after some kind of illusory climate deal. And they're saying, we need to work with you.
Do you know what does anyone know what John Kerry is doing?
Flying around somewhere.
He's off on his own. He's doing negotiating, but when he won't talk to anybody.
They're not stupid. They hear that and say, yeah, we don't take you seriously on the tough talk because you're constantly begging us to do things on climate and offering us incentives.
Well, all right. Now, one thing that I have to hold you entirely responsible for, the end of the British tax revolt. Britain was one of the actually it was your administration. They cut the corporate tax. They were very, very competitive. Not quite as competitive as Ireland, but closing in on it. Now I'm reading that the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, and his Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, they're going to raise the top corporate rate to 25 from 19. They're going to reduce they're not going to inflation index personal incomes, even though Britain's inflation, I think, was even worse than American inflation. And they're basically just going to let inflation win and then lose all their companies to Ireland. Now, you are an expert on Britain without any question. What do they think they're doing? What is their rationale?
There's a very simple explanation for this. It's just a few words. Captured by the bureaucracy. The Treasury bureaucracy, the bureaucrats and technocrats in the Treasury have always believed that there's no damage that comes from raising corporation tax and the corporate taxes. They've always had that view. When I was there inside 10 Downing Street, every year at budget time, I made a submission that we should cut it even further.
Yeah.
I was arguing to cut it to 10% so that it was globally of any major economy the lowest. That would bring a flood of investment. CFOs around the world would say, yeah, we need to be in the UK. Look at their corporate tax. It would send a signal. And they never, ever took seriously that kind of behavioral effect. And they would always give us this economic jargon. Well, the optimal rate is this 70. And they don't care, actually, about the impact on business decision-making. They don't see the connection. And so Sunak, the new Prime Minister, well, not that new, but the Prime Minister who's there at the moment, he was previously the Chancellor. And Boris Johnson's big complaint about him, which he used to air privately, now Boris Johnson is saying it publicly, is that when he was the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak was just controlled by the civil servants at the Treasury.
But Boris,
looks like it's happening again.
But Boris was also a taxer.
Well, he got completely...
The only one who wasn't a taxer was that poor Liz Truss.
Exactly.
They just beat the living daylights out of her.
But she was right. I mean,
of course she was.
On
they
the
just
policy,
beat her up
right.
mercilessly.
Yeah.
What does he think going to happen? You jack up these taxes.
But also, by the way, especially at the time when outside of the EU, with Brexit, the whole point of Brexit was to say, right, we're no longer sunk in this mess of the high taxes and high regulation of Brussels. We're going to do our own thing. The phrase was Singapore on Thames. We're going to have this island of free enterprise there on the coast of Europe. None of that's happened.
Mine was economic Magna Carta 2.0.
Beautiful.
This could have been liberation.
Of course.
By the by, if you start jacking up taxes, particularly business taxes, which affect the wage earners and their families, you're heading for a recession.
Exactly. It's exactly the opposite of what they should be doing. They should be doing a vigorous pro-growth
You need to mount a rescue mission.
I'm very happy now as a proud American, Larry. I need to rescue California. That's what I'm focused on.
Well, that's a noble cause, too. Thank you to Steve Hilton. You can catch Steve on The Next Revolution, Sundays, 9 p.m. Eastern on Fox News. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Larry.